All right. All right.
Good morning, good afternoon. How are you, Mark?
Yeah, well, I'm much better now. Thank you for asking.
Of course. And I guess we'll open up by explaining who I am. My name is Chelsea. I sort of manage our VIC, Vegan Investing Club platforms, at least Facebook and Instagram. Mark, explain to people who you are.
That's a good question. So I thought of this idea because it was a need that I had as an entrepreneur. And I talked with a lot of vegan leaders about this process, and all of them said the same thing. Raising money is very hard for the vegan companies. And so if we're going to go through it as a vegan company and we figure out a method that works, why not make it available to more and more vegan companies to accelerate the vegan economy? And that was the genesis. It was in discussions of how to do it, what worked in the past, and using new laws like crowdfunding and other Regulation A+ and so forth. So fortunately, I have a background in security, so I'm pretty comfortable with these new laws, these regulations. I'm very comfortable talking to portals, which are the crowdfund portals. And so we're going to talk more. We're going to get into that today, but that's how it got started. That's what I'm doing here.
Well, that's exciting. I can feel your passion through the screen, which is unusual because we're talking investing, and then we're going even more niche and talking about vegan investing. So what's your background with veganism? Why are you so passionate about this?
That's a great question. So as a financial professional, I would have loved to work on more vegan companies, raising capital and helping them grow. That was never an option in my Wall Street career. There weren't a lot of vegan companies around. So it's very exciting. In the last 15, 20 years, we've seen so many vegan businesses and products come to market. And so about 15 years ago, I really said, I'm going to only work on companies that I personally have a relationship with. You know, I finance solar energy farms. I finance wind farms. I financed jojoba oil plantations to replace whale oil in manufacturing. And of course, I finance traditionals. But my interest, my personal interest was help the vegan economy, help companies grow. They're going to solve some of our biggest problems, make our world a kinder, more gentler place, and also improve our own health. Wow, win, win, win.
Right.
So that's kind of how I come at it. I bring my professionalism, my contacts from Wall Street, and we're bringing that professionalism to help vegan companies and vegan entrepreneurs get their early stage capital and hopefully provide an exit for these early stage investors.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, you're dropping bombs on us, knowledge bombs, right? The good kinds. So I want to go back to discussing a specific form of investing that you mentioned, that being equity crowdfunding. For some people, we don't know what it is. So what is it? How would you explain it?
Great question. So under Obama, a new law was passed, and the idea was to create jobs after the 2007, 2009 recession. And so it was passed in 2012. It didn't get fully into the codes, and therefore it wasn't permitted to be used, even though it was passed by Congress in 2012 and signed by Obama. It didn't get fully encoded by the SEC until 2016. In 2013, I put on a very large summit on crowdfunding with 12,000 people all around the world. We interviewed 75 of the key players, both in Congress and in other countries, that were moving crowdfunding forward. We are talking about equity crowdfunding, that's investment crowdfunding. And so what it allows is a company to go onto the web and to say to the public, its customers and fans, hey, we're going to raise some money. If you want to invest in us, click here and make an investment on this portal. And these portals are regulated and licensed by the SEC. They're mini broker dealers, if you will. And so the public is now given an opportunity to invest early in companies without the requirement that they be accredited. And the accredited status is $200,000 a year in income for 3 years or $1 million net worth. That's about 1% to 2% of the population in the United States. Yeah, so for all the rest of us, we can invest in these companies we love if they do crowdfunding. And that's what crowdfunding was developed for, was to help bring money to startups that will create jobs, help the economy, and also to allow people that have some knowledge about the product or the company to invest in those companies because they know it and they love it. Yeah. And that's the oldest adage in the investment world. invest in what you know.
Wow. So this brings us to something that you recently taught me, your investment philosophy. So invest in what you know is the third one, but what are the first two?
That's great. Thanks. Okay. So diversify.
Okay.
There were three of them. There was
Yeah,
invest in what you know,
diversify,
diversify. What was the
plan
third one
long
we talked?
term.
Long term. Okay, great. All right, I'll cover the first two. I just covered the idea of investing in things you know and you're
Yes.
familiar with. You have an inside track, maybe you use the product, you know the customers. The diversify is early stage, more failures. That's just the way it is. We know it. It's a fact of life. The earlier the company, the more unpredictable its success, whether it's going to take a long time, whether it's going to succeed, whether it's going to go sideways or fail. And so professional investment money managers, venture capitalists, they all diversify. They all try 10 different deals, expecting one of them to be a big home run and the other 9 to be either horizontal, just okay, or fail. And so as an early stage investor through crowdfunding, you have to use the same strategy. So you must take a dollar amount, divide by 10, and plan to invest in 10 early stage companies that are vegan over the next year or two. So that's the strategy that we teach at Vic, that we wanted to make we wanted to impress it and make it so simple for people to understand how they will pick companies. And the way they'll get safety is to diversify. They'll pick vegan companies that they know about, but they'll also diversify in 10 of them, equal amounts in 10 companies. Could start at $100. That's the beauty of equity crowdfunding. It starts at $100 usually.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that definitely gives access to those who formerly did not have any, right, to this investing world and sphere. And to pair that with a vegan company, I think really speaks volumes. Actually, there's a quote that I wanted to read to you. Is that okay?
Please do.
You know, we have an Instagram and we share quotes and all of these techniques or strategies for how to invest in the vegan economy. So one quote that we recently shared it's from Ann Lapp. Every time you spend money, you're casting a vote for the kind of world you want.
Exactly.
You agree
So
with that?
that goes along with invest in what you know and what you love. Kind of a two-sided coin. And then the third issue that you asked me to address is this long-term investing or long-term strategy. Let's face it, short-term gratification led to the problems of the mortgage market collapse because they were these teaser rate mortgages that in 5 years blew up from 2% rate to a 12% rate, and people couldn't afford the houses anymore. And other types of short-term thinking in the stock market and business lead to problems in our society. We know that long-term thinking is what produces the healthiest outcome for our food choices, our exercise choices. So if we get up in the morning and we don't feel like going out for a run because it's rainy and cold, and we do that 5 or 6 days in a row, guess what? We're not producing the kind of health we want long-term. But if we say to ourselves, hey, it's raining, I'm going to exercise inside today, I'm going to go down to the basement and do some exercise, or I'm going to run in the rain anyway, I'll do it anyway, just a shorter run. In any case, whatever the choice is, always think, what's the long-term result I want? And will my decision now contribute to that long-term result? So in the investing world, when you want to make a long-term result, it's an outcome you want. Profit, you want that company succeed. Because you're a vegan, maybe you want a vegan company succeed, affect the vegan economy. Well, you can't think what's their short-term. You want to think what's their long-term prospects. And so when we look at vegan companies, the prospects are excellent. The whole economy is moving towards veganism, partly because so many companies were exporting their waste products into the rivers, into the air, and they didn't have to pay for cleanup. That's starting to come back on them. They now have to pay for diseases they're causing in their local communities by polluting the water, by polluting the air. Downstream causes are being upstreamed back to the source. And that's going to make, I read one study that a McDonald's burger, if it involved cleanup and all the associated costs with producing that burger, it would be a $13 burger, not a $2.50 burger. Yeah. Now, a $13 McDonald's and a $8 Beyond Beef, now we're competitive. And that's what's happening in every market, in every part of the sector of the economy. The true cost of production is getting built back into the cost to the consumer. And when the consumer has to make choices, they're going to have these options that there'll be the vegan option, which might be a little bit more expensive in the subsidized model. But when corn is no longer subsidized, and when exported what's called externalized expenses. For instance, polluting the air, polluting the water, and health costs to the community that you operate your business in. When these are brought back into the product, suddenly vegan products are going to become very competitive. We're going to have an entire parallel vegan economy, and it'll be outperforming and outcompeting the standard old school, old world economy. That's our future, and that's our long term, and that's where we're going. So we want to make our investment decisions both for our passions and our values. So we want to align our investment decisions with our values. That's vegan. But we also want to make our investment decisions to do well by doing good. And the way we do that is we look, where's the future? Where's the trend? Where's history going? And veganism is the future of a healthy planet. Albert Einstein said, these are my paraphrase, the single most powerful thing we can do to secure the continuation of human species is a vegetarian diet. A vegetarian diet from Albert Einstein. Who knew, right? So that's how powerful thinkers see the world going forward in the future.
And it's funny that you bring that up because on October 1st, just a few days ago, it was World Vegetarian Day. So woohoo! That was actually started in 1977 in the United States, and it has since expanded. And another fun fact I learned is that actually currently 1 in 10 people is already a vegetarian and or a vegan. So the conversation doesn't even need to change all that much, right?
Is that in the US or is that worldwide? How does that?
Worldwide. So it seems like more people than not are actually already open to this form of eating and living. However, that's not something that's often reflected in our markets.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Is the fact, the statistic that you mentioned, 1 in 10, is that in the US or is that worldwide, I imagine?
Worldwide, globally.
That's huge. I had no idea there were 1/10 of the world eats predominantly vegetarian. That's amazing. The trend is there. I know that India is famous for having 250 million people who subscribe to a vegetarian diet, but it's primarily because they're raised in that tradition, the Hindu tradition. And there are many more people that are raised Hindu that don't subscribe, they don't keep the diet. But evidently, the estimate is about 250, a little less than a quarter, maybe a fifth, of the population of the entire country, India, is vegetarian. They eat a lot of dairy there. Now, I have a lot of Indian friends, and I've done a lot of reading, and I happen to know statistics that dairy consumption in India is huge, and diabetes is huge. So they're actually not having the greatest health benefits by eating so much dairy along with their vegetarian diet. And so there's a lot of movement and a lot of change in India, even India, to go vegan, go from vegetarian to vegan.
And I mean, since we're on the topic of India, why not? I recently learned that they are creating leather. So that's leather that's actually made out of flowers, right? So I think the innovation is absolutely there, be it India, the United States, anywhere else in the globe. But we need to have more attention, right?
Wow.
And one thing that you recently taught me was that money matters. Well, I mean, I always knew this, but right, the more we sort of invest in things that we fundamentally believe in, then the world will change, right? The world responds to how our money is transacted.
And as Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. And so it's fortunate that now you can make money being the change. 30 years ago in my finance career, when you invested with your values, where you wouldn't invest in something that you found abhorrent, like maybe chemical warfare, mines, weapons, maybe even you didn't believe in pharmaceuticals, you wanted to go towards naturals. Well, you would have to take a discount in your earnings to screen away certain companies like Westinghouse nuclear reactors. Well, in 30 years, that's turned around. And by screening away certain dangerous, polluting industries, you're actually going to have a higher yield. So green screen or social responsible investing screened mutual funds are now doing better on average than generalized funds. So it's interesting. The things have changed in 20, 30 years, my business practice. Yeah, you're right. The other thing about your leather, you mentioned innovative leather. I've heard of mushroom leather and I've heard of pineapple leather. I never heard of flowers. That's so cool. So it makes sense. Everything is carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. Everything. 99% of what's on this planet is those four things.
Yeah.
And so if you reorganize the molecules, you're going to have petrochemicals. Before that, it was a dinosaur or a plant. You're going to have plastic. You're going to have prescription drugs. You're going to have plastic glasses. You're going to have clothing. You're going to have plastic, hardcore plastic. So all of these carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, these elements that are so plentiful in the universe, in our planet, when we reorganize them, and as plants do, we can use them. So why not take a plant and make it into clothing? I heard that Ford during World War II was able to make the body of a car out of hemp.
Really?
Because the shortage of metal was needed for the war effort. So they developed a hemp-based body car. Again, it's a plant.
Right.
And then after the war ended, they went back to metal. Like,
well, what a mistake, right?
well, you could smoke your car, I guess.
People in Colorado would love that.
Right.
You know, we're actually coming towards the end of this interview. I feel like you shared so much knowledge in just a short amount of time. So I feel like our audience members maybe need to listen to this again, don't be shy, and over until it really starts to sink in. But I wanted to close on a more humanizing note. You know, we've been talking investing, we've been talking veganism, but really I want to know more about you, Mark. So please tell me, what is your favorite meal?
Oh, that's easy. Black beans with lightly steamed broccoli. And I love tomato sauce, and I love mushrooms, particularly portobellos, but small ones. And I just clean them and eat them fresh. I don't even cook them all the time.
Wow.
And the reason I choose these foods, Chelsea, thanks for asking, is I'm feeding my microbiome.
Wow.
So there's so much research, and it's very exciting. And there's going to be more and more vegan companies, but there's already there's some research and testing companies helping people learn about the microbiome and what foods to eat. That's the future. The future of food is personalized and vegan, plant-based and vegan. And so I really believe eating the foods that Dr. Joel Fuhrman, a very famous vegan doctor who was an Olympic athlete way back when, he says eat 4 foods every day to feed your microbiome: onions, greens, beans, and mushrooms.
Onions, greens, beans, and mushrooms.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that. I'll try.
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking. Thanks for this interview. Now, just to recap, I think you made a really good point. There are 3 things that people should consider when they're making investments. Something they know, they understand, they have a relationship to. So it has values for them, but also they have some personal knowledge about it. Something that has a long-term proposition. They believe it's long-term value in the world we all live in.
Yes.
And then diversify. And you'll find more out about that in our VIC. We have some tutorial, little teaching videos, explainer videos. There are some blog articles. VIC is about helping vegans learn first before they start investing. And then there'll be notification emails to you as a member of VIC. It's free. Just join. And you'll get emails saying when vegan companies are raising money and letting you start with $100 minimum if you want to start that low. And then there'll be many of these coming in the future. That's the future of VIC. We really see VIC growing to be 100,000 members next year.
Wow.
And of course, the best example for people the best reason that they would join VIC is to have an example success. So at VIC, me and the other people who formed VIC, that started VIC, I call it VIC, it's Vegan Investing Club, VIC. Yeah. The people who started that and all the vegan entrepreneurs and leaders, we are working hard to get the first company to be a profit success, an example of how vegan investors, early vegan investors, can get a profit in a year or 2. Yeah. And with that kind of an example next year, we think we're going to have 100,000 members in the next 2 years. Wow. So we're working hard to get the first example. We're in phase 1, which is build our membership. Phase 2 is the first couple of companies to use VIC, to let investors, members of VIC, invest early at a discount. And then third phase is a whole bunch of companies based on a success of one company making money for early investors. I hope that helps. I hope that makes sense.
It does. I mean, it's a very beautiful vision. It's new, so I think it just take a little bit to sort of like imagine it for yourself.
Yeah.
But the picture is crystal clear in my mind.
Yeah.
And obviously, I believe that this is a possibility, and this is perhaps exactly what the world needs right now. Love the glass. All right, so I want to thank you for taking time on this Saturday to speak with me about the Vegan Investing Club. And we're going to get together again, yeah, and do this and answer some more pointed questions that people in the group have for you.
Thanks for your help, and thanks for helping get the message of Vic out to the vegan community. I know you're an activist yourself, and you are passionately driven to make a difference in the world. So thanks for the work you do, Chelsea.
Wow. Thank you.
Okay.
Grateful for this time.
Peace, as they say.
Have a good one.